Hello, everybody. It is your Uncle Fish back again for School of Fish Art Stream. J-Man wants a Gatling gun on the end of his tail. Oh my goodness. J-Man says the tail's where you put all the heavy artillery. Damn. Said he used to have a howitzer on the end of his tail. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to School of Fish. It is, as always, your ever-loving Uncle Fishy back again, as I am every Tuesday and Thursday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for the School of Fish. Tuesday mornings are free for everybody, and it's on YouTube and Facebook and Twitch and all those places. And of course, if you're one of my Patreon backers, you can hang out on the private session on Thursdays, which is for patrons only. And we have a good time and we talk a lot of smack. And a lot of the stuff we end up talking about ends up coming up in my books. So it's a real good way to get to have a say in what's going to happen in Mr. Fish Comics coming up in the future. So that's always a fun time. Um, anyway, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad you guys can be here with me. I'm looking forward to today because today we are working on a really interesting project that I'm excited about. We are working on a pinup for the Raven, which is a character out of the Sentinels comic that I've been doing for a long time. And the new issue of Sentinels is live right now on Kickstarter, and y'all need to go check it out. Just go to Kickstarter, type in the Sentinels, and you should get right there. Uh, anyway, I got a video that I want to share with you guys and show you what's going on in the new book. So hang out for a second and check it out, baby. Think that came out pretty cool for, one morning's work. I think I'm pretty proud of that. That came out good. Anyway, y'all really need to go get in there and check out the Sentinels. I am going to take just a second. I'm going to go check out the Kickstarter myself. Kickstarter. And I'm going to get the short link copy for it and put it in the comments because I forgot to do that earlier because Uncle Fishy's been running around like a chicken with his head chopped off all morning. Just here, there, and everywhere trying to get ready in time because I am not feeling that great today. There's been a bug going around the house and I hate it. But at the same time, I would rather go ahead and get it out of the way now than have it take me out of Urban NerdCon in Atlanta coming up soon because I'm real excited about being there. Uh, I posted the link in the comments. The link is also in the description of the show down at the bottom in the description. So you can check it out there. Click the link, go follow it. Show Roy some support. If you love your Uncle Fishy and you love the stuff that I do and you love my work, you need to show some love to Roy and Standard Comics because I'm here to tell you, Roy was one of the first guys to take a chance on an unknown artist that nobody had ever heard of and nobody ever worked with. He said he could work so fast, but he can't possibly work that fast, right? And it's got to be a lot. Roy took a chance on me, and Roy has been one of my most loyal customers. He's one of my favorite clients out there. I love the dude. It's a great time working with him. I love working on the Sentinels just about as much as I love any project that I've ever come up with on my own. I'm very invested in these characters. I'm very protective of these characters. I love them. I love what he's doing with it. I love what he's doing with this awesome mix of public domain heroes that got lost to time and his own original creations, like the Raven and the Crimson Streak. And I love what he's doing with it. I enjoy it. And all through COVID, this man kept a roof over my kid's head and kept my refrigerator filled so my kids were fed, all with the Sentinels issues and stuff, along with a couple of. He's a good dude. He deserves our support, and absolutely, you should get out there and back his books. Um, I am going to click over to Clip Studio because I got them all running in the same window so we can see it all. Bum-ba-da-bum-bum-bum-bum. There we go. All right, I'm trying out a little bit of a different camera angle this time because I'm trying to get to where like my whole head's not disappearing on us while I'm working. I have a new page setup to Kablam templates because Roy always uses Kablam. So I want to make sure that this is nice and printable. So it's already set up to those layouts. And that's something that we can take just a second and talk about. You can straight up go to all the big printers will have templates and stuff laid out for you for how their page needs to be laid out. I think I have it saved. Hold on, let me see. Import image. Do-do-do-do-do. Should be right in comic books. All right, let me do a search and find it. Anyway, they've got a template that you can download and pull up, and it has all the stats and all the information on it, and it will give you all the measurements for all this stuff. And then you can go in to new, and then when you get down in here into your page layout, it'll tell you that the finished page needs to be 7 by 10.5. So you type all that in there. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the chat overlay for now so that we can see a little bit closer. We know we got our final dimensions. I work at 600 DPI. They want their final files at 300, but I would rather have the extra information and lower the resolution before I send it out than not have it. Because every once in a while you do like a really cool image and it's like, oh man, I wish I could get that as a poster. Well, turns out we can because I did it at really high resolution. And then we've got the trim size of the comic. We've got, oh, I changed something there. Anyway, we've got the top margins, the bottom margins, all this stuff, the safety margins, all that. And you can plug all of that stuff in. And when you plug it in with the right dimensions that you get from their template that you download from their site, and all the printers have it, then it will give you these lines right here. And we know that this is the outside page dimension that they want it sent at. This is the cut line where it's supposed to cut everything off. This is the safety margin. And right there, that we know if we keep everything within here, it shouldn't matter if the line gets cut over here or if it gets cut over here. Everything's going to be safe if we keep it within that border. And then this is our real like layout in here where we know everything is safely within the page. And boom, I know those lines are there for everything. And like when I go to draw panel layouts and stuff on it, it will click to that inner line because, that's what I've got. I've got everything set right. And I can share all that information with you if you need it. And I probably will. I'm probably going to make a post soon to put it up on my Patreon page. It'll be free for everybody to look at if anybody wants to go over and glance at it. But you just go to Patreon, Mr. Fish Comics, and I'll post a screenshot of my settings there for what the Kablam template looks like, and then you can set your page up and then save it, and you will never have to worry about setting up a complicated page layout again because you can just click, oh, I saved a Kablam layout. I've got one saved for uh, double page spreads, the whole 9 yards. Where did my mouse go? There it is. What is up, J-Man? What's up? Friend Fish and the students of School of Fish. Glad you're here, man. Glad to see you. probably peeking in on his for a second while he's at work, 'cause, J-Man will do that. Probably got old boss man over his shoulder wondering why Fish is talking about such crazy stuff. Because that's what Mr. Fish does. All right. So we're going to start working on a layout for the Raven for pinup. And I also just want to point out that I made sure that I did this beforehand. I went to File, I came down to Time Lapse, and I clicked on Record Time Lapse. Now that makes for a much bigger file sometimes because it remembers every single move that you make. So if you end up making a whole lot of moves and a whole lot of lines in an image, that file can go from being a little bit bigger than normal to being way bigger than normal. Like I've had, a couple of these files be, a couple of gig that I didn't expect them to be that large. But, I worked on them for a long time. Oh, no boss till Thursday. All right, it's party time for J Man. So, you got to be aware of that. And you can always go back after you've exported the time lapse and you know that you have a saved copy of the video and it is safe on your computer. You can always go back and unclick that and resave the file. And sometimes it will save it as a much smaller file size because it's forgetting all that information that it had saved. So sometimes I'll go back and do that. Sometimes I forget and I end up with very large files on my computer. But you know, your Uncle Fishy. I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So I tend to save them just in case I ever want to go back again, or in case I sometimes go back to an old pinup. I'm like, oh, you know what? Let me change something. Let me add to it, and then I'll put video of that too. So anyway, I've got the time lapse set, so we're gonna get a nice video of this, and we're gonna put it up on TikTok for old Roy boy, because that's part of what he's paying for, is to get a nice time lapse video with your Uncle Fishy doing a voiceover. It's part of why we're doing it on School of Fish, so we can show off his work that much more and get people to go to Kickstarter, check out the new issue of the Sentinels. Go to Kickstarter.com, type in the Sentinels, you'll find it, or go to the link in the description of this video. Got a pitch from a man, keeps the lights paid. Um, Talking like a rooftop scene, and in Raven is your kind of character that's sort of an analog for your street level rich man devoted to, cleaning up the city and atoning for his past, dark brooding character that has spends his money on lots of cool gadgets and has a cool base in his home city and it's always dark and raining there. We exactly know who this is a analog for. Oliver Queen or the Blue Beetle or the Shadow or any of a number of other characters. But so he has cool gadgets, and I kind of like to show that off. He's a master of like multiple martial arts and stuff, and I love to show that kind of stuff off. And he's the kind of guy that likes to go in and just like take down a group by himself without a problem. And so, like, I like to accent all those cool things about who he is. So I'm kind of thinking some sort of action scene where he's like leaping off a roof or something, and I want to have him like maybe throwing smoke bombs with one hand and uh one of his weapons like some shuriken or something with ready with the other hand. So we're just going to play with some quick layouts here. We're not going to commit to anything too hard yet. We don't want to get tied down too fast. We'll play the field for a minute, have a little freedom before we tie ourselves down to one pole. And I'm thinking, and the other thing that I really enjoy about working on Roy's books is because he takes so many public domain characters that got lost to time, he likes to treat it like, how DC would like buy up other people's characters, like they sued Fawcett and stuff out of business, and then went and swept up the copyrights to Plastic Man and Shazam and stuff. Said, "Oh no, he's too much like Superman to be in the comic book market. It's too confusing." and then as soon as they suit him out of business, they go and snap up and start printing uh, Shazam. So, so he likes to think about it and treat it like Standard Comics, which used to be a printer back in the day, and one of the few that actually like had a logo and stuff. And so he likes to treat it like Standard Comics went out and started purchasing all the other comic characters that went under and combined them into one shared universe the way that DC did. And and maybe Marvel to a lesser extent, but DC did a lot of it, I know, because a lot of my favorite characters from DC came from other publishers. Right, there we go. And so he takes all these cool characters that used to be out there, like the Grim Reaper and stuff, and give them new life in his books. And then he also adds in some of his own characters, the way any good publisher would, and try to make some new characters and hit some notes and some roles in superhero stories that haven't been hit before yet, that haven't been hit with characters that they would have got out of the public domain, at least not the way that he wanted, like Crimson Streak and the Raven and stuff. But then you can take other cool characters like Grim Reaper, Black Orchid, and give them new life. And I've really enjoyed working on it. At first, when I first got the gig, I was in a position where, like, I couldn't turn a gig down because I was just getting started and I needed to make money and I needed to get my foot in the door. And any job was better than no job. And I didn't get the appeal of public domain characters at the time. Like, why not just make your own? Because that's something that's easy for me to do. And I just didn't get it. After working on this for a while, I get it. I love the Grim Reaper and I love working on Black Orchid and stuff. And it's fun getting to work on characters that already have some notoriety and whatnot, and people might remember some things about them. And then it's neat getting to play with those characters and take them in new directions and do cool new things with them. But you've already got that recognition of people already know that character. And so I get it now. I didn't get it originally, but I get it now. So got him throwing out smoke pellets here, and I wanted to give a chance to show like the smoke pellets in several different forms where, like, he's just thrown one out and then he's thrown one out that's started to go off and it's spraying smoke out. And then he's got one that's, like just exploded. And then he's got one over here that's already been going off and spraying out lots of smoke. So that in that one image, we get like a walkthrough of what's going on, like what this device is doing. And I think that's pretty cool. So this might end up being the image that we go with. Um, I also wanted to give him some honey ray stuff. I wanted to make him like a triangular throwing weapon that would incorporate his raven motif into it. But like I always wondered as a kid and a throwing knife enthusiast and stuff, and throwing star enthusiast because when we were kids, we could just like, go buy them at the gas station and stuff, get them at the fair. Man, I loaded up on freaking blowguns and crossbows and throwing stars at the fair every year. Man, I saved up all year for that. But I always wondered why Batman would design his batarangs the way he did, especially back in the 80s when they're curved on the top like a protractor. And, it was a little more boomerang shaped per se, but that's still not going to work as a boomerang. And it definitely isn't going to work to stick in anything. But in the 70s and 80s, he was more about gently clunking you on the head and not sticking in anything. And now he's more about sticking it into people. But I always thought, like, if you made that bat shape, like, wings pointed out like they did you know, in the later Batmans, or if even made it a triangle point and had its tail sticking out. A really good option of sticking in there, and I think that is just a cool design. I dig it. So we're gonna give that to him, and hopefully Roy's gonna dig it too. And I gotta say, I'm really liking this. The only problem is the cape is gonna cover a lot of things. So I need to put his cape in such a way that doesn't cover up too much of his awesomeness. Man, maybe something like that'll work. All right, I'm gonna keep playing with this because I like where this is going, and I try not to get too married to my first idea. But I'll be danged if more often than not my first idea isn't the right idea. And you know what I'm gonna do because I have the option because I do weird things and I ended up commissioning a new friend of mine. Physics don't work in comic book world like Cap Shield. If it absorbs energy, how does it bounce? That's what I'm talking about. There would be no noise. There would be no clang. There would be no bang. There would be no bouncing it off of things. It would hit freaking Red Skull in the teeth and then drop like a freaking rock. You're welcome, Roy. Man, you rock. I love you. Thank you for all the amazing work. Thank you for getting to work on such an awesome project. Happy to be working on it. But yeah, Cap's shield would not work that way. It wouldn't go doing, 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 and come back. Like, I mean, okay, so they made it an alloy of vibranium, so it doesn't absorb absolutely everything. Come on. I like things to work and I like things to make sense. And that's part of what I like about working with Roy is he really thinks things through in his books. And like the Crimson Streak, I absolutely love because he sent me like videos and stuff of to explain how Crimson Streak's powers work. Because like most speedsters just like write it off as like the magic speed force to why they can run and not burn up their clothing and stuff. But Roy, thought it through, and Crimson Streak's actually like warping space. So he's shortening the distance between here and there and walking across it, which to us looks like super speed, you know, but he's actually like Star Trek. He's just shortening the distance between 2 points to travel it. And in that case, he doesn't have to have super fancy special, unstable molecule clothing that can absorb, crazy friction and stuff, which makes him a lot more fun to draw. Roy says the face of the shield absorbs energy, the edges release it. Easy. There you go. That's a good way. I mean, that is a good way of explaining it. Like if they engineered it in such a way that the molecules lined up perfectly when they, formed the shield so that it absorbs it here and casts it out on the side. That would explain it all away. That would make it make sense. Um, like how are we gonna make uh what's his name? Heath Ledger's Batman. Uh, Christopher Nolan Batman or whatever. Like, how are we going to explain that he can fly on his cable? That doesn't make sense. Oh, well, if we give him a magic fabric that we, can put electricity into and it makes the molecules line up and it gets rigid frames in it, okay, we can explain it away that way and make it make sense and make it work well enough for us to believe. Anyway, because I'm a super rich American artist and I have, lots of disposable income and whatnot, I ended up hiring a friend of mine who lives nearby to make me these model faces, which is kind of hard to see up close with the bright lights on it. But it comes in really handy sometimes for looking at it to get those like weird angles for when you're looking like from behind the ear and like how much of the eye can I see and how far do I have to turn it before I can see enough of the head to make an expression and then would they still be looking at the character? So this ge- except it attaches to Batman's neck. Yeah, that's kind of a problem. But, we'll overlook that. But so I'm gonna kind of turn this around a little bit and get it at the angle that I've got his head here. And looking at it this way means I'm gonna go back and erase all those lines I put in right there. And oh, I'm on white. And and that's one of the things is, as an artist, I could draw faces all day long, but I don't ever want to get complacent in my skills and quit learning and growing and progressing. So if, you know, getting some head sculpts made so that I can uh, get more accurate in my drawings and make them look that much better and that much faster, like I can turn this thing and look at it real quick and not have to waste a bunch of time drawing and erasing something. That saves me time and makes it go faster. I got that thing drawn that fast just by turning the little head and looking at it and realizing this is showing a lot more of the forehead than I was thinking. I had the eyes like up here somewhere, which, looked okay, but it's good. So that helped out real easy. Just paid for itself in the time it said. So now I can start making this look more like Raven. And I love one of the other things that I like about working on Roy's characters is a lot of them have like realistic masks and stuff. So like there's gaps around the eyes, like old school Barry Allen Flash and stuff, so you can like see their faces and you can see their eyes and gives me as the artist so much more room to get emotive with that. Now, I could totally understand how if you're an artist that like has only learned how to draw Batman with, white slits for eyes, that might be an uncomfortable challenge to have to learn how to do that all of a sudden. But for me, I loved it. It gave me such an opportunity to add character and emotion to characters like the Grim Reaper and the Raven and folks as you can see a little bit more of it. And then on the opposite side of that, like Crimson Streak's goggles pretty much completely obscure his eyes. So like I started adding in shadows, through the goggles that just like give you a hint of what's going on. But I wanted to keep some of that obscurity because like, Crimson Streak is completely covered head to toe. Like there is no open spot of the face, you know, nothing. He's completely covered, which I'm sure cuts down on bugs in your teeth and stuff. And so then that's a whole nother challenge of how do you, then all of a sudden it's all about body language and stuff, which makes him so much fun to draw because, now you're having to, you're having to do all of his emotion and stuff in his shoulders and his hands and the way he's standing and the way he's tilted his head and stuff, and you're only getting shadows of what his eyes are doing inside of there. Oh, that's I love a challenge, and Roy loves giving me challenges. Roy absolutely loves to just think things up and throw it on the page, and it's like, figure it out. And I gotta admit, it pushes me and makes me come up with some cool stuff sometimes. Is it all an absolute hit every time? No. And that's another thing that I enjoy about working with Roy, and it's something that everybody that works on characters like this should get real comfortable with real quick, is you need to be okay if your client says no, and you need to have a good two-way communication with your client so that your client feels safe to say, "Nah, that's not really the way I wanted it. That's not the way I saw it happening." And I really enjoy working on these books back and forth with Roy because he has no problem telling me no, and he lets his yes be yes and his no be no, and I appreciate that. If I ta There's a lot of times I will take a chance on something that I think is cool, and I'll sketch it out in the pencils, knowing full well that if he doesn't like that, then I'm gonna be redoing it, but that's okay. I'm willing to take that chance because I think what I've got here is a cool idea. And all right, so now so y'all can see what I'm doing. I am pulling up the Sentinels handbook, and I want to go down to the Raven entry because I want to be sure that I'm getting all the little details on his suit right. And I wanted to check out his belt again because it's been a minute since I've drawn him in full costume, and I wanted to make sure that there were no. I know he's got the pouches coming down his chest. I wanted to be sure that there weren't any pouches coming around the sides. And now I'm seeing that the texture on the side of his vest is different than the buckles that I just drew on it. So that's a good thing. That's why we check our references. Because now we can go back and change that. And we can take those out. And another uh but yeah, that's what I like about working with Roy is I can offer up ideas and be like, hey, what about this? And he'll either be like, yeah, let's go. Let's go with it. Or he'll be like, nah, leave it as written. And that is so freaking nice as an artist to be able to just know, like, he's going to say, yes or no, and that's all we got to do with it. There's not a whole bunch of back and forth and not a bunch of like, well, I don't want to hurt Fish's feelings and I don't want to make him mad and make him walk out on the book. I'm not going to walk out on the book. Like, you've paid me to do a job, and I don't get that money until I finish the job. So, like, let's get it done. Um, there's none of that stuff. There's just I want to make the book cool as I can, so I'll toss out cool ideas if I have them. If he likes them, we'll put them in. If he doesn't like them, cool. We do it just like you wrote. That is absolutely fine with me. I'm here to do a job and make my client happy. That's what I want to do. And I love the fact that we can do that together and not have to worry about a whole bunch of like, oh, I don't want to hurt his feelings, or giving me answers that are filled with a whole bunch of gobbledygook. And you know, and part of it is probably my being on the autism spectrum. But like when people add in so much stuff trying not to hurt my feelings, all they end up doing is making the answer very confusing. And now I don't understand what it is they want because I can be extremely literal. And, it's like, "Well, you said it was awesome. And you said it was great, but you want to change it. Like, that doesn't make sense to me in my brain. But if you're just like, let's leave it the way it was. Okay, cool. That makes perfect sense. I can do that easy. And, because we've worked together on so many things, and he's learned that he can trust me on projects and whatnot and trust my take on things. I get a lot more freedom on this than I do with a lot of new clients. It's like, you know what, 4 pages of fighting, go nuts, and not have everything spelled out, so I get to have fun. He says he's being lazy. I'd say he's trusting me, but either way, I enjoy the freedom to make cool stuff because, like, I got to make a tidal wave of asphalt in one of the books because I had the freedom to do whatever I came up with, and that is one of the coolest things I have ever drawn in my freaking life. I freaking love that tidal wave of asphalt. And every time I'm at a con or something and somebody's asking about the book, I always brag about that because I got to add that in because I had the freedom to do what I thought was cool. Phil says, I think it was Ron Mars that said the artist should be heavily involved in the writing. If we're both invested and involved in making this an awesome book, it's going to be, in my opinion, it's going to be better than either one of us could have done alone. And that's that's what we want. We want a better finished product with all of us firing on the same cylinders and going down the same track. When you've got a client whose imagination is running in a completely contrary direction to your imagination, it's not quite as easy and it's not quite as fun and it doesn't run as smoothly. And Roy knows it, sometimes it can be like pulling teeth with somebody that just like, and not that their ideas are wrong or anything, just, if you don't click on it, it makes it all so much harder than it should have been. And okay, if Roy is still here by any chance, what do you think? Is this a cool layout? Because it would be awful nice to go ahead and get approval and be able to keep going on this thing and knock it out. Because we're 37 minutes in and we got the pencils on Raven pretty much finished. Like, I kind of wanted to show the staff that's mentioned in his entry that can, be a quarter staff or a short staff or nunchucks and stuff. But I also love the shuriken idea and I love the smoke bombs and I wanted to get to show those off too. So, you got to pick and choose. It's the philosophy of the product being worth more than the sum of its parts. Absolutely. And I love that. Not that I don't see some awesome single creators, Fish Comics, put out some cool books alone, but even I wish I had an inker and a colorist and, people that I could work with as fast as I work and could work for the same price I can work at. And, that we could work together and make something even cooler than I could do alone. On one of the books of the Sentinels, I hired out a team to ink, and I had Luis Rivera inking for me, and I absolutely loved working with him. And some people might say that his style is a little bit stiffer than mine, and it is. It's a little more controlled and a little cleaner and stuff. But I can be a little bit more casual and chaotic in a little bit of ways, but I'm also like a little bit more expressive in some ways. And so each one has its positives and has its bonuses. And I loved having Luis ink for me because our styles are very similar, but he just kind of tightened up some of the things I'm a little bit loose on. And I really appreciated that. I loved the final product on that one. Good deal. Roy says it looks good to him. So we are going to figure out what he's leaping from real quick because I have learned the hard way that that's not something that I want to leave to the last minute and just hope is going to work out because it doesn't always work out so smoothly and evenly. But if I can rough in where some stuff is and get some vague idea of what the perspective is going to be, it will be much easier for me to lay in buildings and stuff down the road in the background and make that work if I have a rough layout. And so So I found out the hard way by doing this on the show live. I can't just throw up perspective lines and automatically make something cool out of it. But if I sketch out roughly what I'm wanting ahead of time, I can come up with something pretty cool. So, all right, that gives me a rough layout for the buildings. And then I'll throw them in and I'll make a correct perspective off of these basic outlines. And we'll go from there. But right now, we're going to work on the awesome foreground stuff. So I've got my blue color layer down here in the corner. I'm going to make a new vector layer above that because we always ink in vector because that always gives us the opportunity to go back and adjust our line width and change little things and make it easier. And I'm going to color my layer black because it makes it a lot easier for me to find that little black icon and know that's my ink layer than looking around at all these tiny little names with my old eyes and my blurry glasses that constantly need to be cleaned because somebody's got greasy fingers, Roy. And it's a lot easier to spot that black layer than it is to look at the little bitty letters. And which is also why whenever you get a message from me during the day, I tend to be screaming at you in Messenger because I've always got caps lock on. Because when I do title those little layers and name them, I name them in capital letters so it's easier for my old eyes to see. And nobody believes that. Everybody thinks I'm just yelling at them for no reason, and I'm not. But I get it because half the time when you message me during the day or night, or anytime I'm awake because I'm always working, I'm yelling because I got caps lock on because I'm working. Well, but you did it to me at 8 o'clock at night, Fishy. I know because I was still working. Well, but that one Sunday you did it to me at 6 in the morning. Yeah, because I was working. You know why? Because I'm always working. I'm trying to work on that. There's a contradiction for you. But I'm trying to work on that, and I'm trying to get to the point where doing wrong. I'm not seeing the line. So, oh, there, I transparented my layers. That's what my layer transparent. So I couldn't see the silly things I was doing because I was a dummy. Cut. Leave the empty layer. No, working on not working as much. Exactly. Phil gets it. Phil's dead. He understands. Yeah, and my wife is really on me to get better about taking time for myself and not overdoing it. We've been really looking at um she's really been pushing me to look at cutting back on the number of cons that I do per year. Just really from a, you know, I don't mind the cost usually because I can turn around and make good money at most shows by doing caricatures and stuff like that. And, a lot of folks can't do that the same way that I can. And so I have more than just doing, quick little sketches of the superheroes or whatever. The being able to do a caricature of you as your favorite superhero really helps me make some money at the shows. So it's not often that I come back having lost a lot of money, but it's still a time expense to go to the shows. And because I am, a disabled artist, I usually tend to have to, like, I will make, like, where a lot of people might leave a show and get right on a plane and head home. I don't, I don't do that. Like, I will usually, like, go stay another night at the hotel and then, leave out the next day and take my time heading back so I can be easier on my body and my nervous system. And that might mean that we end up staying somewhere halfway along the way on the ride home and making an extra day out of it. And those days take time. Those days definitely eat up time from my schedule. And then the thing that I wasn't I wasn't calculating quite as much. I was kind of pretending like it wasn't that bad, is the amount of like recuperation time I need. And so, we might get back from a con on Tuesday. Let's say we get in early Tuesday, but a lot of times, because I'm so tired and whatnot, I can't just go back to work in full steam on Wednesday. I need some time to recuperate and let the swelling go down in my legs or whatnot from the journey. And that eats up time that I'm not working at full speed. And then it's not just how much money did I make at the con, it's how much money did I make at the con split across the days it took us to get there, the days it took us to get home, and then the time of recovery afterwards. And like, if I booked a show this weekend here and this weekend somewhere else, the next weekend, the week in between and probably the week after is just me recovering, taking it easy on my body, getting almost nothing done. That costs too much money in the end run for, you know. So she's pushing me to be more thoughtful and plan out better which shows we go to and which ones I'm willing to invest that time in. And I had already changed and like stopped putting stuff back to back because that's just too hard on me. I'm too old for that nonsense. Unless they were like nearby or something, I ain't got time for that mess. But sorry, some long lines take full attention to get a good curve on them. Um, but just pushing me to be more thoughtful about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, and is what I'm getting out of it worth what I'm putting into it? Which is always something we need to think about in business because this is a business, even if we're not making any money at it yet, this is a business. And if we don't treat it like a business, then we never will be making it. The fish is why it's drawn to his head because it's a vector line. So I can go to eraser and boop, take it all the way back to the edge of his. And see, and that's why it's a lot easier to just have the line come way out into his head and then go back and erase it than to come real close and then try and erase it because it does so much better when there's a long bit to stick out there. And I can come back and just erase off those bits, and I got a little bit of shadow in there. I love the way that's coming out. Love the way you work. No diggity. I forgot to turn on the music. I've just been sitting here singing to myself like some kind of idiot. Some kind of wrong. It's all royalty free. No, it's not good because you get what you pay for, says Uncle Fishy. That's okay. Wise man once said, I ain't hung up about it. And if you've been tuned in since the beginning of School of Fish, you know what that means. And if you don't, you just sitting there scratching your head, wishing you were one of the cool kids, like Fee. The Fee ain't here now. Kyron's not even here. That's strange. Kyron's always here. Okay. I'll have to message the man. Well, I'll message the man next to the man. I'll send a word through his butlers. I'll send the word up to home office. They'll put themselves on the schedule, and eventually, in one of his daily briefings, he'll get word that I was asking about him. Or he won't, you know. You know how Jeeves is. If you don't slip him enough money under the table, he ain't doing nothing. I tried to tell Kyron that Jeeves was ripping him off, but the message had to go through Jeeves. I don't think it got there. Ooh, no. I was going to say, since that's vector, I could just copy that and paste it, but I wanted to show the thickness of the blade on this side, like I tried to hint at it here and on the side of the head. So, can't just copy and get that. I like trying to give thickness and realism to clothing when I can, because so much of the time, you know, superheroes are wearing super meta fabric and stuff that, you know, shows every vein bulging but doesn't show nipples and, you know, all those magical things. And so when you get to draw somebody that's wearing like actual cloth for a change, I like to try and show the thickness and the weight of it and the billowing and the folds and the wrinkles in the gloves and the wrinkles in the arms when they move their hands in different directions and all that stuff. I tell you, because I'm a rich, fancy American artist, I've got my personal 3D minion that's been printing up all these models for me. Buddy Dustin, he is working on a really cool, realistic hand model that I found for free on Thingiverse. And the nice thing about the hand model that I found is it has a really good joint here, which really lets you move the thumb in and around. And then all of these have ball joints in them, so like they move correctly, but also have a little bit of play in them, so that you can kind of move things around a little bit, and you know, and like we can rotate our fingers a little bit, not a whole lot, but it gives you that kind of play in it, and it looks really good. He made me a one at 50% size that would print faster, and between a little bit of trouble with the print and how small it was and my ticky fingers, I ended up losing some of the parts as I was trying to clean them up and sand them smooth. And so now I don't have enough parts to put it together, but I have enough parts to see that it's a really awesome model. So I'm having him make me one at 100% size, so it's a real human hand size. And I'm gonna start looking for a few different types of gloves and get like some isotoners and get like some fine leather gloves and some leather work gloves so that I can put this hand in actual gloves and pose it and make this kind of hand right here look like more than my standard hand with seams on it, you know? I really want to start making my gloved hands look like gloved hands and do all those weird things. Like a lot of times, the seams for the knuckles, like they don't come all the way up here to where your knuckles are. It looks like they're way down here by the time you fold your hand over. Like I want to get all that stuff. I want to capture all those weird wrinkles and stuff that happen. And I don't want to have to wear a leather glove all day to model it myself and mess with my drawing mechanics. So that's a non-starter for old fish. Will mess with the flow of the work. But if I can have a model that I can sit over here in the corner with all my other models and the, you know, because I've got like all the little body con figures and stuff. If I get stuck on a pose, I can play with them for a second and try and figure out. Because when you've drawn like 15 people flying in a book so far, it can get hard to think of a new pose to put them in that doesn't look just like the pose from, page 3. And so, like, that's a thing to think about. Like, I don't want to be repetitive. I don't want people to get bored looking at the flying characters in our book. So, I think about things like that. Try and make them all a little unique and interesting, captivating. And so I got figures when I run out of ideas because, sometimes I can come up with a lot of stuff in my imagination, but sometimes you can only go so far and then you like run out of new ideas. So having a figure for that is nice. I have had a couple of jobs, where I've had to draw horses and had to rely heavily on photo references to try and draw the horses correctly. But like, it's so hard to do a Google search and get the exact pose that you're looking for a horse. So when my wife and my daughter-in-law were going on and on about Timu and how awesome it was, and I was like, okay, check it out. And I was looking at sculpting figures and I was looking for hand models and stuff before I had figured out I was going to have Dustin print me some. And I ended up finding these cool horse models that are actually made to the same scale as these guys and have all the same joints and everything. I was like, oh, that's a no-brainer. I'm going to get one of those. And so I'm waiting on it to get here and see how well it works. But I've started trying to amass more of a collection of like, different styles of toy guns and things so I don't just end up keep drawing the same handful of guns that I know well. I want to push myself. And, if I have a toy of it, even if it's a miniature, on hand that I can look at and turn in any direction I need to, that's a whole lot faster than having to search online to try and find references of it. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let me double check. Because I think I'm thinking of. Yeah, I'm thinking of Grim Reaper that has the. Well, he's got ties there. He doesn't have ties there. So I'm gonna go with Super Boots because that's what he's got in his main picture. So we're gonna go with Super Boots. I tell you, I was just going back looking through the last issue of um, the Sentinels that I worked on that had like lots of action scenes in it with Raven. Probably the most action scenes I've ever seen with just that character. And looking at it, it was the one that Luis inked for me. And looking back at this as I'm looking close in it, I'm like, just looking at that right there, I can't tell if I inked that or Luis inked it. Which is part of the fun thing about working with him, working alongside him over the years on some different projects, is we've got very similar styles and station. Yeah, there we go. Stitch. Here. Oh, and now we know those curves line up really well with each other because let's see. Down post correction a little bit. That. I love being able to adjust those like post correction and stuff because you can make it give you straight lines if you want. By adjusting it high enough. Oops, so I think we should. No. All right, all right, all right. That's what your Uncle Fishy said. Some Hollywood big shot might have stole. That's nice. And too much correction on. Too much correction. want every little trimmer. Until we do. Once we do, it's on. Break it down. Okay, we got one. It's not spraying gas yet. One that is spraying gas. Another one that is mid explosion. Up, and we're going to put some little specks in here to show little bits of debris as that device has fully exploded now. Keep forgetting I can't use my fingers to turn the screen. And I wish I could. Really wish I could. But to get that feature where I can touch the screen and just turn it like I want to, jumps the price of these screens about $2,000. That's just a wee bit more than I have to spend on it right now. So I'll tell you, spending $3,000 on one of those fancy, like 2-foot wide Wacom screens would be pretty nice. One of these days, it should be rich. Lots of people would be backing my Patreon, getting their books sent directly to them. Have to waste a month running a Kickstarter like Roy's running right now for the Sentinels over on Kickstarter. Link is in the description. You should go check it out. Because if I do say so myself, it's one of my favorite books I've worked on in a long time. Really proud of the action scenes in it. Lots of cool fighting, gymnastics, soul searching. It's cool. A whole lot of fun. Really proud of it. Anxious for everybody to get to read it. So you need to go to the old Kickstarter.com and search for the Sentinels. Or you need to look in the comment section because some of the places that I am posting will have the link show up right now because I'm sharing it there. And if not, it's in the description of the video. You can just go down into the little description where it says what today's video is about and click on it. And pick up the latest comic that I just finished from Mr. Fish Comics and Setting the Standard in Comics by Johnson. From Canada. What I hear. That's what it tells me. I don't have any reason to call him a liar. That's the one thing about the lighting setup in here. It's darker back there with colored lights. It's bright with lights. And there's one freaking little gnat in this room that I can't seem to catch or kill that keeps coming into the lights when I'm casting and buzzing around between all the nice little lit screens in here. I'll get that gnat one of these days. Get him. Catch him. Release myself. Go. So we can suffer the rest of it. Now, if I can catch him, I probably squish him. I'm tired of fooling with him. That's what the gnat said about me. I'm tired of fooling with this boy. Fixing to go interrupt his art stream. Show him what it feels like to have your whole world turned upside down. Start painting kinds of craziness. Who told you you could do such a thing? Said it's my house. I can do what I want to. I told that gnat. And that said, well, I wasn't asked. I've been here my life. Why didn't they ask me? I said, because you don't pay the mortgage, Mr. Gnat. And the gnat just looked at me like a deer in the headlights. That's when I knew I had this gnat licked. So I licked him. Oh, I'm such a... Love it. It's weird. I just updated all of my computers so they would all have the new version 2 upgrade to the new version of Clip Studio, which is great. That's what I wanted to do. But, man, most of my custom brushes came over, but not all of them. And that kind of drops me off the ball just a little bit. Why not all of them? Why just some of the custom brushes that I made? These are the kind of questions that I have nobody's answering, especially not Clip Studio. That's not right. For those of y'all just tuning in, we are working on a drawing for Roy Johnson at setting the standard in comics for his character, the Raven, his original character, the Raven, that is a part of his superhero team up book full of public domain superheroes and some of his own creations, the Sentinels, that I have been working on for many a year now, and is currently live on Kickstarter right this very minute. And you can find it by going to Kickstarter and searching for the Sentinels, or you can follow the link in the description to this video. That's why that's screwed. They're both on the same side. That's why that's wrong. Well, you know what? I'm nothing if not honest. And nothing is more helpful, I think, than seeing when somebody screwed up. And I screwed up. When you zoom way out on this and you see where my perspective lines are, one's way up here, one's over here. And I've always said if one's really close and the other one should be really far away on the other side to make it look better, and the other one is really far away, it's on the same side. Both of the points, both of the vanishing points are on the same side of this, which for most of this up in here made it look just a little wonky, but not bad. But then it gets really weird on that building there. So we have no choice but to just undo that altogether. Turn that off. We're going to make a new vector lector for some new buildings that we're going to redraw. And we're going to make a new set of perspective points. And this time, we are absolutely going to run them. We're going to make one go this way. The other is going to go this way. Not the same way. This way. And we're going to have a vanishing point going up into the sky for the skyscrapers in the back. Now we're going to check it. One's on this side, one's on the right side of the page, one's on the left side of the page, and one's at the top. That's what we want. I don't know if y'all can see that real clearly, but I can. One of them is right over here. One of them is way over here. And then one of them is way up here. That is what we wanted. We're going to turn this layer green so it's easy to find. We're going to move it on top of the other one. And we're going to delete the other one because I don't get confused and accidentally pull that up. Some kind of idiot would do. Because I are neither idiot nor merman. For I are a fool. Of course, I are just talking. Yeah. I are not really a fool. I just played the fool. I'm just the fool standing next to me. That explains why I couldn't draw these little window toppers in the perspective I expected to draw them in. Had two vanishing points on the same side of the page, as the fool would do. But as I said before, I are not a fool. I are just lovely. But it's better, I think, personally, to see somebody make the mistake and then see how to fix it. And sometimes you can make little tweaks and fix something and it'll be okay. This wasn't one of those times. This was one of those times that, as much as I don't want to, I was better off just scrapping it all together and starting over. It's not the way I want to do it, but it's what I needed to do. It's not the answer Gotham wanted, but it's the answer Gotham needed. Comes down to it. Isn't that what we're all after? I'm working on a different layer than my line art for Raven, so I can just erase willy-nilly and not have to worry about infecting any of the lines for him. Now I'm going to bring in some images that I've already got rendered in my artwork of windows and stuff and put them in place, and then help draw some lines to make them look more three-dimensional. But that gives me a layout for where those buildings need to be. And same for this. Like, this outline is going to be the outline for this building. Oops. But now these lines that I'm going to put in here are really just to help with perspective and stuff. Turn on the chat so y'all can see. These lines that I'm putting in here are just going with the perspective of this face, side to side and up and down, so that when I put one of my pre-made images over it of a city skyscraper face kind of building that would be found in this city that we've already established in the books that I drew, so it's all in my style and it looks like one of my buildings, but it saves me a whole lot of time in repetitive backgrounds when much of the time I would just be drawing the same building over and over anyway, or the same, handful of style of buildings. And these buildings look so much better when they're in a perspective that makes sense. And now, again, I'm just drawing in some lines to those vanishing points to help line up the windows and the floors and stuff when I put them in later, so that I know everything is going in the right direction, is matching up well to the perspective. I could do these in a whole nother layer and make them another color, and then I could just turn that layer off rather than having to come back in and remove them later so they're not in the way. But frankly, I don't think that far ahead sometimes, and I probably should, but I don't. All right. And now what we're going to do is we're going to turn that off. Going to turn that off. I'm going to turn off the old pencils. And we're going to come in yonder, and we are going to select all of this blank space. Select all that blank space and all that blank space. This and that. All right. Oops. All right. We've got all of that selected. Now I'm going to turn back on my layer with my buildings. I'm going to right click on that layer. Right click. All right, let me do it with my mouse because it's a little bit easier than having with the pen. I'm going to right click on it. I'll go to layer mask, mask outside of selection. I've got all the blank areas selected around the Raven, so I want to mask what's outside of that, which is going to be inside him. Mask outside selection. Boom. And now those buildings all look cool in the background. They still need some more detailing. And we got Raven in the foreground throwing smoke bombs, and we got him with his little Raven shuriken up in the air, fixing to chunk it at somebody. And he is leaping off, fixing to kick some bad guy butt and take some names. And man, that is coming out awesome. Thank you guys for hanging out with me for an entire hour and a half uh, watching me work on cool picture of the Raven for Roy Johnson at Setting the Standard Comics from the new issues of the Sentinels, which is, as I said, available on Kickstarter right now. And you can go to the link in the description of the video and follow it. You can go to kickstarter.com and type in the Sentinels. I think it's issue 1 through 9 is available now. Um, anyway, it's a great book. I thoroughly love it. Roy's a good dude. He kept a roof over my kid's head and kept them fed all through COVID. I would take it as a personal favor if you would go out and back his book. It's some of the best work I've done in a long time. I'm really proud of it. You should absolutely go check it out. And before we get out of here, one more time, I wanted to show you the little teaser video of the Sentinels. So, hey, get out there and back it, guys. All right? Your Uncle Fishy loves you. And I will see you very soon. And for my Patreon backers, I will be back on Thursday for my Patreon only uh, School of Fish art stream. And it's only $3 to join if you want to. So go to patreon.com, Mr. Fish, after you go back this issue of the Sentinels. I love y'all. Peace out.